For many years, the galaxy believed humanity was still weak, still struggling to expand beyond a few colonies, still learning what others had mastered centuries earlier. Humans were considered harmless, not a threat, not even worth discussing during council meetings. Most alien commanders thought of Earth as a distant, quiet world, too busy fighting its own problems. But that belief changed in one single moment. Near the border of the Orion Dominion, a strange signal appeared in deep space. It was faint, unstable, and difficult to read. Scanners across multiple stations tried analyzing it. Their artificial intelligence systems flagged it as unknown. Some officers thought it was just sensor failure, but others felt uneasy. There was something hidden behind that distortion, like a shadow waiting to take shape. Commander Rydell, an experienced alien officer, was sitting in the control room of Fort Helion, a heavily defended station built to protect the Dominion's trade routes. His scanners kept repeating one message. Incomplete object data. Signal lock failed. He frowned. Nothing ever failed in this sector. Their sensors were advanced, designed to detect cloaked ships, drifting minerals, and even tiny debris from battles fought ages ago. Yet now, they could not identify a single object right in front of them. He zoomed in, expecting to see a small transport vessel struggling with damaged engines. Instead, he saw nothing, only darkness, like the empty void of space. Moments later, the signal flickered again. Then space bent. A ripple appeared, stretching like a curtain being pulled aside. Every officer on the station leaned forward. Their screens shook. Power levels dropped for a moment. The gravitational field around the station distorted, as if something enormous had been hiding right beside them. And then it appeared. A massive structure slowly revealed itself, like a mountain rising from underwater. First came its front hull, sharp, angled, black metal armor that swallowed light. Then its midsection, covered in layers of plating, each one glowing faint blue lines. Finally, its engines emerged, silent but powerful, surrounded by rotating rings of energy. It was a warship. A human warship. But no human ship ever looked like this before. Rydell's hands trembled. The ship was bigger than anything in their records. It looked like floating architecture, as if humanity had built an entire continent and sent it into space. Hundreds of weapon ports lined its side. Strange shapes extended from its rear, like launch chambers and energy stabilizers. The ship was quiet, yet it carried the presence of something unstoppable. No record found, the scanner repeated. No identification code detected. No communication channel active. Across multiple planets, Dominion officers received the same alert. They opened emergency channels. Fleets were mobilized. Civilians were instructed to remain indoors. But the ship did not move toward anyone. It remained still, floating above Helion as if observing everything silently. No one understood why it had appeared. Then smaller lights activated around it. Drone-like units detached from its hull. They moved in perfect circles, scanning every direction. Some flew toward nearby satellites, some toward starfields, and others toward the fort itself. Not a single weapon fired. Not a single threat was spoken. Yet everyone felt threatened. The ship was calm, and that made it worse. Had it been aggressive, they would know what to do. But its silence felt like judgment. Finally, a transmission arrived, not in the Dominion language, not through their network, but directly into their minds through translated audio. Do not fire upon Earth again. Rydell stared at the screen in disbelief. Earth? This ship was from Earth? How is it possible? One officer whispered. How did they build such a ship? How did they hide it? No answers came. Fear spread through the entire station. They remembered how Dominion scouts once attacked a civilian human freighter months ago. It was dismissed by the Council. It was treated as an unimportant complaint. But Earth clearly did not forget. Humanity had not responded with words or threats. They sent something greater. Something unmatched. The arrival of the ship was not noise, not war cries. It was silence. And in that silence, every alien understood that humanity had evolved far beyond what anyone imagined. At that moment, the galaxy realized it had underestimated Earth. And for the first time, they felt the cost of that mistake. The Dominion expected the mysterious human warship to move, either to retreat or attack, but it remained still, suspended like a silent warning in dark space. No engines flared, no commands were broadcast, no shields were raised. That stillness made the atmosphere among alien officers even more tense. It felt as if humanity was waiting for something. Then the warship turned slightly, just enough for its image to fill every major surveillance screen across the sector. Its hull shimmered with shifting armor plates, changing shade like a living surface. Between the armor segments, glowing lines pulsed steadily, almost like a heartbeat. The drones sent earlier returned, each docking back into the ship in perfect formation, one after another, like pieces returning to a puzzle. Everyone assumed that was the end. Maybe the ship was simply here to show power and then leave. But suddenly space twisted again. Behind the first colossal warship, another shadow began to form. Scanners attempted to detect the distortion, again failing. Rydell watched helplessly as the distortion grew larger than the size of the first ship. The room fell silent. Officers leaned closer. The power core of the station shivered under the gravitational pull. Then the new vessel decloaked. It was longer. Sharper. Its body carried rows upon rows of kinetic cannons, missile chambers, and projector rails. Unlike the first ship, which looked like a fortified ark, this one resembled a machine built exclusively for war. Gasps echoed across command rooms everywhere. "This is impossible," someone whispered. Humans never had these fleets. But the universe did not pause. Another ripple appeared. Then a third ship broke through the distortion. Then a fourth. Then a fifth. Until finally, 7 colossal vessels stood aligned, silent but intentional, like 7 floating cities made of steel. The galaxy had never seen a coordinated fleet appear so quietly. No alarms. No approach sound. No energy spikes. Just presence. Rydell was a trained officer. He had seen countless battles, entire worlds burn, fleets collapse in minutes, but what stood before him was different. This was not aggressive expansion. This was controlled dominance. Before anyone could speak, audio crackled again through every Dominion channel. "Your offenses against Earth are recorded. This fleet exists only because you drew first blood." The voice was soft. No threat. No hatred. But the meaning struck harder than any weapon. Months earlier, a Dominion patrol had fired on a human evacuation vessel near an unstable star system. The humans requested safe passage, but were denied. 78 civilians died in that attack. Alien newspapers called them irrelevant casualties. No investigations followed. To councils, it was meaningless. But humanity remembered. Not because they sought vengeance. But because those civilians represented the final boundary of tolerance. Across every Dominion world, panic notices spread. Evacuate military outposts. Close border sectors. Avoid human contact. Fear spread faster than light. Many officers suggested launching defense fleets immediately. Others argued humans might be bluffing. High counselors were divided. While they debated, the human fleet simply observed, unmoving, unreadable. Then, something else happened. The Earth fleet projected holographic images into space, giant structures appearing in golden light. They were maps, showing Dominion attack routes, broken treaties, intercepted data, and records of every time humans asked for peace and were ignored. In that moment, the galaxy was forced to look at truth. The Dominion realized they had awakened something patient. Something capable. Something prepared. Suddenly, faint movements rippled across the human fleet. Weapon ports folded open like blooming petals. Shield fields activated. The station trembled under sensor output. "Prepare for incoming fire," shouted several Dominion officers. But no weapon fired. Instead, one last sentence echoed across space. "Stand down. Correct your mistake. Not apologize. Not surrender. Not fear. Just correct." The human fleet had no need to scream power. It simply revealed the level of advancement humanity had secretly reached. No one understood how Earth built such warships. Were they hiding deep shipyards? Were these vessels built underground? Or did humanity make discoveries that other races could not detect? No one knew. But one fact now towered above all others. The galaxy was dealing with a force that evolved in silence, and revealed itself only when provoked. In the halls of Fort Helion, officers realized that their actions, once dismissed as harmless, had carried consequences. And those consequences now floated above them, 7 silent warships, waiting for the Dominion's next move. The Dominion Council believed the human fleet would eventually withdraw. They assumed this sudden arrival was nothing more than a reminder, a political show of strength. Many alien leaders still held on to outdated beliefs. Humans could not possibly match their technology, their armies, or their war strategies. So, they made a decision that would change everything. They ordered a strike. It began with a flash. Hundreds of Dominion warships warped in around Fort Helion, forming a tight combat grid. Their engines burned blue-white flames. Shield markers glowed. Their weapons extended like sharp claws preparing for the kill. Officers shouted commands, confident that overwhelming numbers would end this confrontation before it escalated. Rydell stood frozen, watching the scanners fill with enemy signatures, not human, but Dominion reinforcements ordered to attack. He whispered to himself, "This is not strength, this is arrogance." The Dominion believed numbers equaled power. They were wrong. Before the Dominion ships could even calibrate firing range, the human fleet reacted. But not with missiles. Not with lasers. Not with kinetic blasts. Instead, space folded. The human flagship generated a pull, light bending, space tightening, gravity compressing into a focused corridor. Dominion ships were pushed into artificial trajectories, unable to maneuver. Engines screamed and overheated. Inside battle bridges, pilots lost control of their own ships. "What is happening?" shouted one commander. "Gravity lock," another cried. No one had ever seen such manipulation. The Dominion ships tried firing. Missiles launched, yet never reached their targets. They vanished mid-flight, dissolving into nothingness, as if swallowed by invisible doors in space. Target eliminated, human sensors transmitted calmly. Dominion plasma shots followed, glowing hot as stars, but the human armor absorbed them like small sparks hitting water. Not dented. Not scratched. Not marked. The first human counterattack was silent. A soft pulse traveled outward, undetectable to the naked eye, invisible in darkness. Dominion monitors lit up in red symbols. System failure. Shield compromised. Magnetic core collapsing. One by one, Dominion cruisers disintegrated, not through explosions, but through implosion. Their hulls folded inwards, collapsing into themselves like paper crushed into a ball. There were no debris fields, no flames, just disappearing matter. Rydell stared in disbelief. This is war without war. Minutes passed. Thousands of Dominion soldiers were simply erased from space. The councils watching from broadcast visors panicked. The empire that ruled territory for centuries suddenly faced something beyond computation or prediction. Still, some admirals refused surrender and commanded one last charge. Their ships surged forward, weapons screaming. Then something terrifying occurred. The human flagship opened its lower hangar. But no fighters launched. Instead, hexagonal emitters appeared, floating like shaped mirrors. Each activated simultaneously. Then came the voice, calm, unemotional, final. Cease aggression. Your losses will not be recoverable. Dominion admirals ignored it. So the emitters fired. Not beams. Not missiles. Not plasma. But directed ripples of compressed force, soundless shock that fractured hulls into microscopic particles. Ships became dust under invisible pressure. Massive destroyers broke into powder, drifting away like ashes. Crew voices cut mid-scream. It lasted 11 seconds. And the battle ended. Not a single human vessel carried damage. Not a single human drone was lost. The Dominion fleet existed only in scattered fragments, floating in lifeless stillness. Rydell sank into his chair. His heart pounded. His mind tried to justify what he saw. His training offered no explanation. This was not war. This was correction. A precise demonstration of capability. Every alien officer watching understood something humans had never spoken aloud. Humanity did not grow strong to conquer. They grew strong because they knew war would eventually find them. Now, the Dominion Council begged for communications. Messages flooded every frequency. We request negotiations. We accept responsibility. We recognize Earth's sovereignty. But the human fleet did not respond immediately. They simply waited, letting silence deliver a lesson no weapon could teach. Earth had risen, and retaliation had arrived not with rage, not with chaos, but with controlled certainty. And for the first time since the conflict began, the Dominion realized that surrender was not weakness. It was survival. After the battle, the ruins of the Dominion fleet floated like dark clouds across space. Hundreds of worlds watched the destruction unfold through live tactical feeds. The empire that controlled entire star clusters now stood helpless. For the first time in centuries, silence replaced arrogance. The human fleet remained still, engines low, weapons inactive, shields folded inward. They were not celebrating victory. They were not demanding surrender. They simply waited, as if giving the galaxy a chance to breathe. Inside Fort Helion, lights dimmed. Officers sat in stunned silence. Rydell walked toward the window, large enough to see the entire battlefield. 7 massive human warships stretched across the horizon like silent skyscrapers in space. Their metallic bodies reflected distant stars, and their formation looked deliberate, calm, confident, and unshaken. A transmission finally arrived. It was not emotional. It carried no threats. It held no hatred. Your actions created this outcome. Now correct it. Those words spread through the Dominion Council chamber like burning frost. Leaders who once mocked humanity now lowered their heads. Their advisors spoke softly, reminding them. When weakness brings a correction, pride does not protect you. Only responsibility does. So they accepted. A formal transmission was prepared. We acknowledge our violation of human sovereignty. We request peace. Moments later, something unexpected happened. The human fleet expanded. Not physically, but visually. A shield field unfolded around them, like a sphere of shimmering glass. The Dominion systems measured it, and the results were terrifying. It was large enough to cover an entire moon. No technology in the galaxy could replicate that kind of protection. The shield projected light waves that allowed communication, but blocked weapons, gravitational interference, and cyber intrusion. Humanity was not reacting to fear. They were setting boundaries. A human ambassador finally spoke, appearing on every Dominion screen. It was not an armored general or a political leader, it was a calm, collected woman wearing a simple black uniform marked with a single silver emblem. Earth Command Seal. Fleet Division, S-01. She spoke clearly. Earth seeks peace. We do not expand into foreign systems. We do not conquer territories. We punish only when attacked. A second screen opened, playing recordings of earlier Dominion incidents: freighters shot, civilians ignored, distress signals denied. The room felt colder. Finally, the ambassador continued. Your wounded will be returned. Your broken fleets will be left unharmed. But this border will not be crossed again. Humanity was not asking for submission. They were enforcing respect. The Dominion emperors bowed, not out of tradition, but because they understood survival depended on humility. Then something more remarkable occurred. The human flagship deployed evacuation pods. Each one carried the surviving Dominion soldiers who surrendered earlier. They were returned, alive and unharmed. Officers who expected punishment came back with medical treatment and food supplies. That single act rewrote the galaxy's perception of Earth. Even in power, humans chose compassion. Across star systems, broadcasts repeated a single statement. The strongest species showed mercy. The Dominion government signed the peace decree. The border was marked with autonomous beacons, warning ships never to cross unauthorized. As the human fleet prepared to leave, the Dominion Chancellor requested to speak. His voice trembled, even through translation. Humanity is no longer the quiet world we once ignored. The human ambassador replied. No world should ever be ignored. Then the fleet turned. Its engines ignited, not blasting noise, but rippling light. Space bent in controlled arcs. One by one, the ships vanished into subspace corridors, leaving behind silence. No banners. No occupation forces. No destruction of worlds. The galaxy witnessed something they had never seen. Victory without conquest. Long after the fleet disappeared, Rydell remained at the observatory window. He replayed the moment over and over in his mind. Humanity had not come to dominate. They came because they reached the limit of being underestimated. Across every academy in the Dominion, history books were rewritten. Children would grow up learning a new chapter. The day Earth revealed its true strength. And across distant stars, old empires whispered privately. Do not provoke the species that rises quietly, because when they rise, it is already too late. In that single truth, the galaxy finally bowed, not to fear, but to undeniable respect.